Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Apologies. I know you're expecting a guest here tonight, but my guest was under the weather. Understandably, wanted to reschedule for next week. So you'll have to wait one more week to get that episode. But you still got me, and we're ready to go tonight. A quick follow-up to the last episode. A number of people commented on YouTube and the podcast and messaging, asking, Big Ken, why would you ever buy Illusion Retail Football? And I agree with that question. I did leave a comment on YouTube, and I'll share the same one here. It was a moment of weakness, right? Driving around on a Friday afternoon, hitting the local Targets and Walmarts, finding empty shelf after empty shelves. I get to the last Walmart, and I see these Illusion mega boxes on the shelf. I didn't want to go home empty-handed, and I paid for it. Right. So there's a lesson to be had here. If you can't find what you're looking for, unless you find something way better, go home empty handed, because most likely it's going to be a waste of your money. And that's all I have to say about that. Today's episode, I've mentioned in the past few episodes of having baseball cards from 2020, 2021, 22, 23, and just wanting to put a plan in place to sell all the baseball. It's literally, and I talked about moving. I mean, it's been a year since I moved, so a lot of that baseball I moved from my office in my old house to the office in my new house. It's been sitting here on the shelves, taking up space, and in my own defense, and I'm going to say I procrastinated on this probably way longer than I should have, but in my own defense, there's, I've talked about baseball where some of these players, they don't really pop until 2, 3, 4 years into their career, right? So a lot of their cards, a lot of their players in baseball, when they first come out, the first Bowmans, they're all the rage, right? There's all the hype, buy. And then once you get past that, it seems like those prices come down, and then you sit and you wait for this player to go through the minors and work their way up and get into the big leagues and get their cards to start. And some of these guys, their prices have gone up, gone down, gone back up again, have gone down. Some just never have gone up. Some guys, I don't even know where they are. They just disappear, right? So I've been moving these cards. I've been keeping them. I every now and then I go through, I've separated out, who I felt the players were to other prospects that, all those other prospects were just all mixed in. Back in December, I went through and I pulled out the big names, sent a bunch of cards off to PSA for grading. But that really didn't make a dent in these cards. So listeners, have been reaching out with suggestions how to move these cards. On Monday, I talked with a friend in the hobby that does baseball and basically said, I mean, you got to put the work in. You can't be lazy about this. You can't just take all the cards and just say, have somebody look through them or, just go find, try to cherry pick the people, who are of value, because you have no idea. And he was absolutely right. So I put the work in. and all these cards now, keep in mind, are already penny sleeved and top loaded. So when I ripped these cards all right through, as I pulled them out, I would penny sleeve and top load them. So in one aspect, a lot of the work is already done. It's really just figuring out what the values are, what I should be doing with these cards. So Monday, I decided that's it. I'm going to put the work in, and I made a plan, not only to sell these cards, but more importantly, take this found money and reinvested into football. So there was my motivation, right, to stop procrastinating. Put the work in, get these cards in a place where they're going to sell, and then be able to take this money and move it into something else. Wasn't as bad as I thought. 10 hours over 3 days, and really, it was just going through and, one of the things, that he said that made a lot of sense that probably motivated me more than anything, he's like, "On the first Bowmans, there's only so many of them. So even though you've got, a 5-row box of, say, 2020 or a 3-row box of 2020, there's only so many first Bowmans, in that box. So you've got a lot of duplicates." So in my head thinking, okay, I really never thought of that. So once I started pulling them out and making stacks of each player of the identical card, it seemed like it was more work separating them than it was actually just, figuring out what the prices were. Uh, Separated the cards. The $5 and up cards went to one side, and the under $5 cards went to the other side. And this is where the plan comes in. The under $5 cards, I'm gonna box them up, and I'm gonna take them to the shows with me. Just start moving these cards. The $5 and over, I'm gonna be sending, to a consignor to sell the cards. Hear me out. Hear me out on selling them to a consignor. I know, like, if I sit here and I price out a couple hundred cards today, right? Week 1 into the baseball season, and I go to a show 3 weeks from now, 80% of those prices are gonna change. They're gonna have gone up, they're gonna have gone down. Uh, I don't have the time, the patience, or really the knowledge, because I don't follow baseball, to know who's up and who's down. Um, and most likely, selling those cards to people who are just going to take those cards and sell them online for a profit, right? So why wouldn't I take those cards and just do the same thing? I mean, a perfect example of not knowing who's who. Like, I know all the big names in baseball, and when I see their names come up, I'm like, oh, okay. And I was surprised on a few of them that I thought, oh, okay, this card's definitely, got some value to it, and it really didn't, even though it's a popular name. You know, um, I priced a card, like Spencer Jones, right? I've never heard of him, right? But his prices were higher than most of the players that I did know, and thinking that, oh, these cards are going to be, of value. And then I came across, and there was a number of other players. He was just one, but then I pulled this out and I said, see, there you go. Like, this would be a card I would have thrown into a discount box, and not only one, I have a stack of them, right? That it would, it would have made more sense for me to send them off, and it makes more sense to me to send them off to consignment, right? I sell singles of football, right? And I'm just going to give you an example on that. So many of these football cards, right, that I'm putting in a box for $2 and $3, and kind of grouping them up. Now, I know people come in, I see these people, I know them at the shows, they come in, they'll buy 3, 4, 5, 8, 10 of these cards, right? I always give them a little discount. I know their eBay accounts, and I'll see these same cards on eBay selling for $8, $9, $10 on eBay, right? And I'm thinking to myself, it's okay to take these cards and sell them there, but should I just be sending these cards off to consignment? I mean, I don't think I would have the patience, and I have a number of cards that I have for sale on eBay, and I get excited when one sells, but I'm not going to be putting hundreds and hundreds of cards up. I just can't see myself doing it. There's so much time and effort going into that I could be spending my time doing something else with that. I wouldn't find that doing that in the hobby as fun, right? So most of the stuff I do in the hobby, I find that is fun. So if I find something that I don't think it's going to be fun, there's got to be a way around it, right? There's got to be, a way that I can do it. Maybe it's not fun, but maybe it's not something that I'm not looking forward to, or I feel like it may be more work than I want to get involved in. And depending on how this works out, I may do this with more cards, right? I may just try to sell more cards online. I mean, we go to a show, you sell at a show, and it's good because it's just, you're getting paid straight out for a card, right? And it's gone. But so many of those cards are being sold that are just being, reposted online, and maybe it's worth it for me, and maybe I'm, learning my lessons here. I'm talking to so many people, and so many people that I'm even messaging with, listeners out there, and you know who you are. You're messaging me all the time, showing me milestones on eBay, that all this stuff that you're selling, and you're really finding it working out well for you. Um, maybe I should be jumping into that lane a little bit more on some of these singles, or when I've gotten, five row boxes of cards, anything that I find of value over a certain amount, to move them out. But right now, I'm testing the waters with the baseball. Found money, right? I mean, found money. This money was spent 2, 3, 4 years ago, really on impulse, with no exit plan. Uh, and you know, I would say 4 years ago, for me, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I was new getting back into the hobby. And I talked about this a lot, where coming back in, and the hobby was just starting to take off. You didn't need an exit plan. I mean, the exit plan was just buy a card and mark it up and sell it, because the prices were just going up on the cards, right? And then all of a sudden, the hobby, turned, it corrected, whatever you want to say, but then it wasn't as easy to do that. And I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still buying these cards. I'm still ripping these cards, looking for the top players, the chase cards, the prospects. And my exit plan was to put them in discount boxes, right? But is that really an exit plan, a discount box? I mean, it's not. So moving forward, uh, you know, with the baseball cards that sat on the shelves, right? I could call them investments. There's an investment up there. I bought all these cards, penny sleeved them, I top loaded them, I put them up there. That's an investment, right? No, that's a joke. Because even if I did track profit and loss on these baseball cards, I could pretty much tell you it was a loss, right? Learned my lesson with that. Learned my lesson. That's why I stopped ripping baseball, and talked about trying to get involved in too many lanes in the hobby, right? And just not sticking to what I know best. And what I know best is where I can make the money, right? Where I can do really well is what I know best. And when I started jumping into these other lanes, this being one of them, baseball, and baseball was what, if you go all the way back to season 1, episode 1, I talk about coming back into the hobby. That's what I started ripping first, baseball, because I had a friend who that I golfed with, who was all into baseball and was always talking about baseball. And just through those conversations, I'm like, you know what? I used to love the hobby. I used to love, collecting cards, and I've got all this hockey, and I've got football, and, you know, I'm going to jump back into it. And I got excited, and I was buying, the Bowman, the mega boxes from Target, and, and then, we're into COVID. So there's no product on the shelves. So, like, you're meeting a guy at CVS through Facebook Marketplace to buy these, and you're having them shipped from, whoever's got them, they're shipping them. So you're waiting for the boxes to show up all the time to rip them open. So yeah, it was exciting, and definitely was an investment. Um, it was impulse and no exit plan. So, come a long way, since then to now, um, with creating, a lot more, or not creating, but making a lot more sensible decisions. Maybe not the illusions football megas from last week. I still have to learn my lesson a little, but definitely, making much better decisions. So I created an exit plan, right, with this baseball, liquidate the baseball, and take the money and invest it into the football. Use that for the final push, hopefully before the NFL draft. Because I think starting the week of the draft, I think everybody's mind's going to get back into football again. And I've seen this happen the last couple of years. It's like once the draft gets here, that's the beginning of that rise of the rising prices, and especially the rookies from last year, the 2023 draft class. I mean, it's been hot so far. That 2023 draft class has been hot. And I think it's really just going to heat up even more. I mean, some of the prices, and I'm already seeing on the Stroud, the Richardson. I'm surprised. I would have expected the Richardson really to keep pace with the Stroud, but I mean, I'm thinking maybe that injury has got people a little hesitant on him, because I really felt that they would have been much closer in price. Is Richardson still a buy right now? Because he's, his prices aren't as high. And you see a lot of, even like I was talking about Will Levis, and even his, I know his Silver Prism PSA 10 is down in price, but I think it's still over $200, which is a pretty good price for a guy that people really aren't that big on. So pretty much, if I think if this market goes the way I'm expecting it to go with this football, especially with this draft class from last year, moving into the new year, then we're going to have a draft that we're going to be waiting on. I mean, I talked about the optic football is not even out yet, right? And they're talking later in June. There's a lot of 2023 products that haven't even come out yet that we're still waiting on. We're still waiting on them coming out. So, there's going to be plenty of buying options, I think, between now and the end of the month. And then, May and June are going to be, it's going to be one of those things like you're just watching the market. And I think it's still going to be great for singles. I think it's still going to be great for grading. And I think, the more they hold off on coming out with this bigger product, the Prism stuff, is the prices are still going to rise. Like the longer it waits, that people are just like, okay, well, all these cards aren't available yet. What is available? Like, I want to go get Stroud cards, right? What's available? What should I be buying? What's the best cards? And most people are going to say, oh, go buy a Prism, right? Prism Silver, or, PSA 10 or whatever. And I think that's going to be what people are going to do when this other product, keeps getting delayed. And I talked last week, and I've talked before on the condition on some of those cards coming out. So, do you take the chance of buying the singles and get them graded, or do you spend the extra money and just go straight for the PSA 10 if that's what you want? If that's the goal, to own the PSA 10, because I think again, just my opinion, but I still think those prices are going to continue to rise right up and through June and into July. So even the PSA 9s for Stroud are doing very well. So, I mean, that could even be a play too. It's affordable to get into it at a decent price. And some of the, even Richardson too. I mean, I think that those prices are affordable that you can get into, and if you're going to buy now and move later and you want to buy great. I mean, I guess, a 9, most cards, if you really look at them, and the centering is good, and the corners are good, and the edges are good, and there may be a dimple on the card or something that would cause it to 9. I mean, you'd probably be willing to take a chance on buying the raw and sending that out to try to get it to gem, right? But I mean, it's difficult. It's hard to get a 10 with those. It's very hard to get a 10. I've sent out tons of cards, and I got back lots of 9s, and I've resent some of the cards out, and some of the cards that I complained about and, really went back and looked at them again, and I found some issues. But I mean, I don't know. Did, did I miss these issues? Did I miss some of these issues when I looked at them, or did something happen along the way? I mean, it's hard to say, especially when on one of the cards that came back, and I think I mentioned this, or it came back and I could clearly see right through the case there was a dinged corner on it. I mean, just something, all of a sudden I looked right at this and I could see the dinged corner, and I would have never sent that card into grading like that. I would have never sent it. So I have a feeling right there that, something happened on the opposite end of that. If that card got dropped or hit or something happened, before it went through grading. But I mean, who can you complain to? No, nobody's going to listen on that. Right. Yeah. So put a plan together, stopped procrastinating. I've gone through these baseball cards. A lot of found money there. And there's a handful of those cards that, I may send out the grading. I have multiples of a lot of cards. I may pull a few of those cards out, if I think I can get some that may gem and send them off to PSA. But besides that, I'll send them out. I'm fine with sending them and taking a chance to see what happens through consignment. And it's just another lane. Like, I've consigned a couple high-end cards before, but never on the low end. And the more and more I've been talking to people, they seem to really like that. Anything, over $5-10 cards, 15, 20. They said they think they do very well. The person I spoke with said, look, they showed me their eBay and said, look, I mean, here are the last comps on these cards, and my card is selling for, consistently selling at or above comps on all these on consignment. So I mean, that's the goal, right? That, trying to get the most value we can for our cards, right? At the end of the day, that becomes the goal. So why wouldn't I give it a try, right? Let's see what happens, and I'll report back. I'll let you know how well we did or how well I did, and if it was worth doing what I did. And it's really not that much work, right? I really haven't put that much work into it. I said I put 10 hours into it, but that was just going through all these cards, separating them first. Now, I have more than just first Bowmans, right? There's all different kinds of, there's futurists, there's rookie of the year cards, there's all different variations of these cards. So, separating all these out, getting prices for everything. Didn't mind doing that. Kind of had fun doing that. Especially when I'm looking, it's not like football where I have an idea of all the time, like in the price range of cards. Like, doing this, I had no idea. Like, I literally could have hit something and come up with a price that could have blown me away on some of these cards. It's almost like you're hoping that something big's gonna pop. Nothing too big. I mean, I know that I pretty much knew the big cards that were in there to begin with, whether they were autographed or they were number cards that are sent out to PSA. Some are back, some I'm still waiting on. Most graded pretty well. So excited about that. And one of the things I'm starting to find too is sending multiples of the same card. And if anyone else is wondering this, or you've experienced this, let me know. Like, it just seems like when I have multiples of the same card, whether it's 3 of the same, 4 of the same, it's like when I send them out, I'm never getting more than 110. It's almost as if one of them's going to gem and the other 2 or 3 are going to come back 9s. And it seems like that all the time. The only time I sent multiple cards was the Trinity Rodman landmarks, that I sent 7 of them and they all came back 9s. And then when I looked up PSA, there was only one PSA, the pop one of a PSA 10. And there's a whole, a much higher number of the PSA 9s, right? But on a lot of these prisms and stuff like that, I mean, I'm sending them in and I'm almost like trying to separate the orders. So this past week I sent 3 orders, and if I had multiples, I just put one in each order. And I don't know if that's hurting me. Like they're just going to say, well, they're all 9s now. Or are they saying, well, we got 3 of them here. We got to give them a 10, or there's 4 of these. We give them at least 1 gem. Right. So I'm not sure. If you have thoughts on this, please message me and let me know what you think. So this time I just tried a little different. That I have multiples of cards, and I'll spread them out amongst orders to see if it makes any difference, if it good or bad, if it helps me or it hurts me. I don't know. We're gonna have to see. But I will keep you updated on that, and always trying something new. Always trying something new here. Always lessons to be learned. Trying to do the best we can with what we've got. So that's all I have for you. I'll be traveling again. I'll be traveling this weekend. It'll be another hobby-free weekend. Of course, I may find some time to sneak out and head over to Cardiac Cards down there in Apex. I'll be in North Carolina. So I'll probably find a little time to go over there and see my guy Sam and check the store out, and who knows, maybe buy some wax, go home and rip it with the granddaughters. Monday's episode, it might be late. If it's not there Sunday night or Monday morning, you'll get it. It may show up later in the day on Monday, but just depending on, and I say this, it should be on time, but you never know at airlines if it's getting delayed or canceled or things like that. So I'm planning on having it on time, but it may be late. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. Until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.